He's biting if he was.
That's when he was in the corner.
Yeah.
Whoever, it's mostly traditional.
I'm not bald.
There you go. No sudden movements, guys, okay? No sudden.
Imagine waking up at 3:53 in the morning, ripping tape off your mouth, brushing your teeth with luxury bottled water, and dunking your face in a bowl of ice before sunrise. That's not prison camp. It's Ashton Hall's morning routine, and somehow it pulled nearly 1 billion views. But behind the ice baths and banana facials was a story way messier than any workout challenge. Before Ashton became the routine guy, he was chasing a very different dream. Back in 2014, he was a college running back at Alcorn State, convinced he was destined for the NFL. He'd been told since childhood he was gifted, that the league was waiting for him. But when it came time to prove it, his entire career added up to 6 carries for 8 yards. Not 800, not even 80, just 8. That's not a stat line, that's a typo. His pro dream ended before it even began. He admitted years later that there was no sugarcoating it. He simply missed the opportunity. Most people would have packed it up and moved on, but Ashton wasn't built to fade quietly. He pivoted, out went the football pads, in came Bible verses and dumbbells. He reinvented himself as a devout Christian fitness coach, the kind of guy who preached that nothing good happens after 8 p.m. In his world, discipline wasn't just a habit, it was a brand. Pray, sleep early, wake earlier, lift, repeat. That was the gospel, according to Ashton. So he picked up a camera and started posting daily workout clips, push-ups on the balcony, squats in the living room, the classic join me on this 30-day challenge type of content. Nothing flashy, just consistent grind. And at first, people genuinely liked it. Comments poured in from beginners who said his routines pushed them harder than they thought possible. Great workout. Day 2 and I'm already sore. Thanks for this challenge. Slowly but surely, his page started to grow. For 4 straight years, Ashton hammered away at this formula. No breaks, no off switch. Rain or shine, he was uploading something. It was less about the content itself and more about the image he was building. Relentless, disciplined, unstoppable. And eventually, that grind paid off. He crossed the 1 million follower mark, and in the eyes of his audience, Ashton had gone from failed athlete to fitness inspiration. But the workouts alone weren't enough. His content was starting to feel stale, and Ashton admitted he felt stuck. So he turned the volume up. Suddenly, it wasn't just about fitness. It was about showing off. Fancy cars, designer suits, assistants cooking his meals. The message shifted from work hard and stay disciplined to work hard, stay disciplined, and maybe one day you'll live like me. That's when he dropped the video that changed everything. His morning routine, the most bizarre, overproduced, self-serious routine the internet had ever seen. It opens at 3:53 a.m. sharp. Ashton peels off mouth tape like he's been kidnapped by his own discipline, but somehow he's already camera ready. Fresh fade, perfect lighting, production quality on par with a Netflix special. Then comes the teeth brushing. Not with tap water like us mere mortals, but with Saratoga bottled water. A luxury brand suddenly cast as his co-star. And here's the wild part. Searches for Saratoga water shot up over 1,000% after that clip. Analysts said it added nearly $1 billion to the company's market value. Imagine being the CEO sipping your Monday coffee and finding out some guy's face dunk made you rich overnight. But the video kept escalating. At 4 a.m., he's on the balcony doing push-ups and squats that looked less like exercise and more like interpretive dance. By 4:38, he's meditating. By 4:39, he's journaling, though people joked he was still on the first page just writing, "I am him," over and over. Another sip of Saratoga, then the big one, the ice bowl, a giant bowl of freezing water where he dunks his face like he's baptizing himself into the Church of Clout. That single moment spawned a tidal wave of parodies, duets, and memes. Even Mr. Beast joined in, tweeting that he overslept and missed his morning routine, which of course instantly killed the joke, because nothing kills internet humor faster than Mr. Beast trying to join in. Still, Ashton wasn't done. By 7:30, he's poolside. By 7:36, he dives. By 7:40, he finally hits the water. Viewers joked, bro was in the air for 4 straight minutes. Then came the banana. He peels it, eats it and rubs it on his face like a skincare serum. Nobody knew what to do with that one. Banana mask, spiritual symbolism, or just content brain rot? Finally, he suits up in a full designer fit, pocket square and all, only to dunk his face in ice water again. At this point, we weren't watching discipline. We were watching 6 hours of bizarre flexing disguised as a morning routine. And yet, it worked. The internet couldn't stop watching. Some laughed at him, some laughed with him, but everyone shared it. Overnight, Ashton Hall became the guy with the routine, the man who turned brushing his teeth with luxury water into a billion-view phenomenon. But memes fade fast, and when the laughter stopped, people started looking closer. That's when the real cracks in his empire began to show. The glow of internet fame never lasts as long as people think. For Ashton, the shine wore off faster than his banana mask. Once the hype around his routine started cooling down, the internet did what the internet always does. They started digging. And what they found didn't make Ashton look like a disciplined role model. It made him look like a walking red flag. First came the lifestyle questions. On Reddit, someone asked what people really thought of him, and the answers weren't exactly flattering. One person pointed out how Ashton was flexing assistants who cooked his food, drivers chauffeuring him in fancy cars, dinners at upscale restaurants, and closets full of designer clothes. That kind of lifestyle might make sense if you're pulling in 7 figures a year, but let's be real. Fitness coaching doesn't usually bankroll a personal entourage. The consensus was simple. It looked fake. Ashton wasn't just promoting discipline, he was promoting a fantasy, selling people on the idea that if they followed his routine, they'd end up with not just abs, but wealth, status, and luxury. And then there was the elephant in the room, or rather the syringe. Ashton had built his brand around being a natty, gym slang for natural athlete, someone who hasn't touched steroids or performance enhancers. He wore that claim like a badge of honor, but bodybuilders and fitness nerds online weren't buying it for a second. His stats just didn't add up. At 5 feet 10 inches, weighing around 219 pounds, lean with visible abs and carrying the kind of muscle fullness you usually only see on magazine covers, people were calling BS. To the trained eye, his physique wasn't just suspicious. It was practically screaming chemically assisted. One coach even broke it down with math, stripping away the hype and looking at the cold numbers. He factored in Ashton's body fat percentage, height, and weight, and the calculation put Ashton's muscle index above 27. For context, that's a level most elite natural bodybuilders struggle their entire careers to reach, and only a handful ever touch it in their absolute peak condition. And if you assumed Ashton was any leaner than the generous estimate, that number shot up past 28. Translation? It wasn't impossible to be natural at his size, but it was about as likely as winning the lottery twice while getting struck by lightning in the same week. In other words, technically possible. But if you're betting money, you're not putting it on natty. The verdict online was brutal. People weren't just skeptical, they were convinced. One lifter summed it up perfectly. This dude looks like he's been running a gram of gear a year for years. His arms, especially his forearms, were called out over and over as a dead giveaway. That kind of fullness and vascularity doesn't just happen from push-ups at 4 a.m., but Ashton never flat out admitted to using anything. Instead, he played both sides. He'd deny it when pressed, but then drop lines like, "People should think I'm on something because my workouts aren't normal," which, in plain English, is influencer code for, "I'll never say it out loud, but come on, you already know." And here's the real problem with that. Nobody cares if a fitness influencer uses steroids. Half the industry does. The problem is when you look straight at the camera, swear you're natural, and then sell coaching programs promising other people they can look like you if they just follow your routine. That's not honesty, that's manipulation. And people don't forgive that. Ask Liver King, who got cooked alive by the internet for doing the exact same thing. Ashton was quickly becoming the Black Liver King. But it wasn't just about steroids. The more people zoomed in, the more Ashton's whole empire started looking like smoke and mirrors. His workouts? Basic stuff anyone could find on YouTube for free. His advice? generic one-liners recycled from every self-help book ever written. And his so-called discipline, it boiled down to a handful of arbitrary rules dressed up as life-changing wisdom. Go to bed early, wake up even earlier, say a prayer, lift some weights, eat clean, repeat. That's not groundbreaking fitness philosophy like that's a Pinterest mood board with extra ego sprinkled on top. As one Redditor summed it up, the routine is random. Makes no sense. The lifestyle's fake. The message is fake. The guy is fake. And honestly, that sentiment was spreading fast. The more Ashton doubled down on his "I'm the disciplined one, you're just lazy" persona, the more people wanted to see him humbled. Still, at this point, the doubts were just whispers compared to the noise of his viral fame. He was being laughed at, sure, but he was still popular, brands were circling, his coaching business was buzzing, followers were piling in. But the internet has a funny way of flipping overnight, and Ashton was about to find out just how fast admiration can turn into embarrassment when your entire empire is built on a lie. If the morning routine was Ashton's viral highlight reel, then his coaching business was the ugly blooper reel nobody wanted to see. Because while he was out there dunking his face in ice water for views, behind the scenes he was charging people thousands of dollars for something that barely existed. On paper, Ashton promised a dream package, personalized training, custom diet plans, one-on-one coaching that would change your body and maybe even your life. He marketed it like some kind of golden ticket. Post bragged, "We accepted 3 new clients yesterday. We'll be documenting their transformations, taking a few more this weekend. Who's next?" It sounded exclusive, like you were lucky just to be allowed in. The price tag? Up to $10,000. $10,000 for fitness coaching. To put that in perspective, you could hire an actual world-class personal trainer, a nutritionist, and still have enough left over to buy a treadmill and a year's worth of protein powder. But Ashton convinced hundreds of people to cough it up. And what did they get in return? Pretty much nothing. Clients say the so-called custom programs were just cookie-cutter PDFs, generic meal plans that could have been pulled off Google, workouts copied and pasted with zero personalization. The one-on-one calls he promised? For most people, those never happened. At best, some got a single Zoom call before being ghosted. At worst, they were dumped into a giant group call with 80 strangers, where Ashton or one of his assistants would spout nonsense like dunk your face in water and call it coaching. Imagine spending your life savings expecting a private mentor, only to end up in a glorified group chat with middle-aged couples splashing their faces in bowls of ice. That's what people were paying $10,000 for. One guy shared that he dropped $4,000 for direct time with Ashton and got exactly 1 call. That was it. Another said his 21-year-old friend spent basically all of his savings and hasn't made a dime back because nobody ever gave him actual help. There were even stories of fake transformation photos. Ashton showing off before and after results that didn't belong to real clients. And if you looked at his website, the whole thing screamed scam. Cheap stock photos, badly cropped images, motivational quotes slapped on like it was 2012 Tumblr. For a guy who flexed luxury cars and designer suits, you'd think he could at least afford a decent web designer. But no, the whole operation looked like it had been thrown together on a free trial of Wix. Even the results he bragged about were underwhelming. One transformation showed an 8-pound weight loss across 6 months. That's 0.3 pounds a week. Solid progress if you're just starting out, but not exactly worth $10,000. Definitely not life-changing like he advertised. Eventually, the complaints got so loud that other influencers started stepping in. Fitness coach Greg Doucette made a video reading messages from real clients. They all told the same story. Sky-high prices, empty promises, no support. People weren't just disappointed, they felt robbed. And Ashton's response? Instead of owning up, apologizing, or even pretending to fix things, he went nuclear. He started suing people. When a critic named Nick exposed screenshots of clients talking about being scammed, Ashton sent him legal threats demanding the video be taken down. He claimed the accusations were entirely false. But by that point, the court of public opinion had already reached its verdict. The internet doesn't forgive fake natties. It doesn't forgive scammy coaching, and it definitely doesn't forgive arrogance. Ashton managed to combine all three into one package, and people were lining up to watch him crash. At this stage, he wasn't an inspirational figure anymore. He was entertainment, the guy you tuned into not for guidance, but for schadenfreude. Every new claim he made, people waited for it to collapse. Every time he flexed, people pulled receipts. Ashton Hall wasn't coaching anymore. He was clowning, and the audience was getting bigger by the day. By now, Ashton had gone from inspirational fitness coach to walking meme. But if the internet wasn't already convinced he was a fraud, what happened next sealed it. Because Ashton wasn't just scamming quietly in the background, he was loud. Too loud, and when you're loud, the internet loves nothing more than to watch you trip over your own ego. One of the first cracks in his tough guy image came during a bizarre beef with Ice Show Speed. Ashton started talking big, bragging about his speed and challenging Speed to a race. According to him, it wouldn't even be close. He told Speed to back out before embarrassing himself, warning it'd ruin his image. The whole thing felt like playground trash talk, except one guy was a YouTube streamer and the other was pretending to be the next Usain Bolt. The showdown finally happened. 4 races head-to-head, and Ashton, he lost every single one. Not only did he lose, but he lost badly. The same guy who spent months dunking his face in ice to prove his discipline got smoked by a streamer whose cardio usually comes from screaming at FIFA. Did Ashton laugh it off? Shake hands and say, "Good race?" Nope. He doubled down, made excuses, and kept disrespecting. The arrogance didn't just make him look out of touch, it made him look delusional. The internet ate it up. Clip after clip went viral of Ashton talking tough, then eating dust. But the public roasting didn't stop there. Even experts started clowning him. Dr. Mike, one of YouTube's most popular doctors, weighed in on Ashton's routine. His verdict? Useless. He said the best morning routine is the shortest one. Get up, go to work, train hard. Not 6 hours of journaling, dunking, and staring into space. Dr. Mike summed it up as an hour and a half of wasted time. And that was being generous. Twitter was even harsher. One user begged people to stop sharing Ashton's routine, warning that if they kept it up, he'd end up starting a podcast, selling courses, and maybe even launching a crypto scam. The joke was meant to be sarcastic, but then Ashton did exactly that, selling overpriced courses and scamming clients. Sometimes Twitter predicts the future a little too well. By this point, Ashton's image wasn't just cracked, it was shattered. People weren't calling him disciplined anymore. They were calling him embarrassing. The natty debates were still going strong, but now they were just punchlines. Everyone knew he wasn't natural, and the fact that he kept denying it only made him look worse. And remember the banana on the face bit? That became a running gag. Anytime he tried to drop another serious motivational clip, the comments filled up with, "Where's the banana?" Or, "Don't forget your skincare, bro." Once the internet reduces you to a fruit joke, you're done. The worst part for Ashton was that no one, literally no one, was on his side anymore. Other influencers were calling him a scammer. Clients were exposing him. Coaches were laughing at him. Even casual viewers who didn't care about fitness saw through the act. He went from viral curiosity to public embarrassment in record time. It's one thing to go viral for being weird. It's another to stick around long enough for people to realize you're also a con artist. Ashton managed both, and now, instead of being known as the guy with the world's most disciplined morning routine, he was known as the guy who lost to iShow Speed, scammed his clients, and made the internet collectively cringe. The thing about internet fame is that it works like a trampoline. You can shoot to the top in an instant, but the second you slip, you bounce just as fast in the other direction. And Ashton Hall, he didn't just slip, he swan dived off the edge. After the races, the lawsuits, and the endless "I'm natty" denials, the internet had made up its mind. Ashton wasn't a role model, he wasn't a coach, he wasn't even a meme anymore. He was a fraud. The same billion-view routine that made him famous was now the punchline for every joke. Clips of him dunking his face in ice water got remixed into parody edits. Tweets roasted his luxury water toothbrush like it was a comedy sketch. Even Saratoga, the brand that accidentally cashed in, stopped riding the wave. The world had moved on, except Ashton, who was still clinging to the act, and the lies just kept piling up. Each time he made a new claim, the internet was there to fact-check him in real time. He promised clients life-changing results, but screenshots showed empty PDFs. He bragged about speed, only to get dusted. He flexed wealth, but his website looked like a middle school project. He said he was natural, but his body screamed otherwise. Ashton couldn't stop tripping over his own contradictions, and people couldn't stop laughing at him for it. The final nail in the coffin wasn't one moment, but the weight of everything combined. He had taken people's money. He had lied about his lifestyle. He had sold discipline while living a contradiction. And worst of all, he'd done it all with the smugness of someone who thought he was untouchable. When that arrogance met reality, it wasn't a quiet fall. It was a collapse. Now his name lives online for all the wrong reasons. He's the guy who fooled a few people, entertained millions, and embarrassed himself endlessly. A fake natty, a fake coach, a cautionary tale in real time. And honestly, maybe that's the legacy he deserves. Not as a mentor, not as a guru, but as a reminder that clout without character doesn't last. You can only flex so long before people start asking questions. You can only lie so confidently before the receipts come out. And you can only dunk your face in ice water so many times before people realize you're just cold and wet, not successful. Ashton Hall built his brand on discipline, but the only routine he really mastered was scamming people before sunrise. So, what do you think? Was Ashton always destined to crash, or could he have turned it around if he'd been honest from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed the story, and don't forget to subscribe for more.